Hi, folks, and welcome to episode 3 of Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted with Nick Cashone, and
Julie Abel.
we welcome you aboard here. Hopefully, you've watched the first 2 episodes, but if you're a new guest too, we welcome you aboard, obviously, and welcome on to our journey here. Today, we're going to have a guest on our show. His name is Jeremyblin.
Yes.
And we both know him from previous, well, you know him from kind of current previous life, and I know him from a previous life, sort of. And we're not talking like previous lives, like we may know him from previous lives, right?
Well, we could talk about that. If he feels like he's part of your clan, you
right?
know that
Maybe,
intuitively.
yeah, we can talk about that further. But yeah, he's a former coworker of mine years ago, and then how did you know him?
He is on the Iroquois School Board. He's now the president of the school board, and I was on the school board, and I was with the president prior. He is also on. He's a Iroquois representative for Erie County Tech School on that board as well, and he's on the Youth Leadership Erie board.
Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
I'm not sure of that title.
Right, yeah.
We're gonna clarify.
We'll
that
clarify
with him.
with him later. Yeah.
But the point that we're going to be making, I want to really center on the need and the art of negotiation, not just in business, but basically communications through everyday transactions.
Absolutely.
And he is a solid believer. Knowing him the way I do in my capacity, is a solid believer in making sure that goals are attained by negotiating. You know, whether it be he's a salesperson like you are and like I am, and getting the job done by negotiations is really an art form. It's a communication style. Being authentic, being able to direct what you have to do, what your goals are in line with others. Even if they don't agree with you, you'll find some common ground.
Right.
And how can you negotiate those things? It's communication.
Negotiation is huge. I know one story, and maybe I'll ask him about this, but I remember when he purchased a home, and that was one of my favorite stories, you know, and his negotiation of that. If we don't get to that with him later, we'll bring it up another time. But you're right. Negotiation is a huge thing. And that's something that, you know, goes into all of our lives, you know, be it mortgage, real estate, life in general, parenting, you know, or anything in our society anymore.
Yeah. And by design, negotiating is set up to hear both sides. You're by design, you want to hear, what do you have to offer? Right. And I'll tell you what I want. And, you know, just everyday communications, sometimes you forget that. Usually it's this is what I want to tell you. And negotiation is set up by design. How do we get to a deal listening to what you want and what I want? It's a communication style that I think should be used in everyday world.
Absolutely.
And he's very good at it. So knowing him in that capacity, knowing that he is trying to do something right with his involvement with advocating for kids on all these boards, I think that he'd be a great guest. And you know him, and you know him from your youth.
And we did sales. We went out and sold advertising for the Erie Otters, and when I was there, it was right after the Great Recession.
Oh, wow.
So everyone
was 2008.
Yeah, okay. So everyone was cutting all their budgets, and
we're kind of doing that now.
I know. So we're sort of living in this high inflation world now. So, and obviously we're dealing with things with you know, and that is something that I try to bring myself back to. That was one of my first like real professional jobs.
Wow.
You know, back in the day.
How old were you?
I was 24, 25.
Oh my gosh.
At the time.
You guys were just kids.
And he was maybe just a year older than me. I mean, we're pretty close in age. And remembering how we dealt with that. I mean, a lot of people, you know, be like, oh, we cut our marketing budget, or we're not spending money. And that's something now that we're dealing with real estate, you know, obviously with the rising prices and the inflation and stuff like that, is, you know, if I look back at it, and we always talk about mindset here, right? So if I look back at it, I started basically my adult life during the recession, the last recession we had. So I started the job in '08. I got married in '09. I bought my first house in '08. And all those sorts of things. And the way I look at it is I was a 25-year-old kid, and I was starting all these things, and regardless of what was going on with the world and the recession and the skies falling and everything here, I was actually fairly successful during that time. So it was like a lot of people were like, oh, it's not that great, but I was able to get a house, and then obviously later I was able to take some of that equity and buy another house. So I leased my first brand new car during that time, and everything. So I think it's all about mindset, So as we look into the way things are now, so even though things are a little slower on the real estate world and in the mortgage world right now,
Right.
I look at it and I say, you know what, things do ebb and flow.
And I think honestly that history in general ebbs and flows. We have suffered the same maladies that we've suffered. If you look back in history, it's almost a pattern. You almost can predict it in a way. But I think that when Jeremy comes on, Jeremy Koblenz likes to stir the pot.
He sure does.
And we know this, but at the same time, he is dedicated to, I guess, the art of negotiation. That's really the only way.
Yeah.
If we all went about our communications in a mindset of negotiation, imagine how much we would listen.
Right.
Imagine how much that we would come to the middle and we'd be able to discuss what we need and what we want. He's going to be talking about, I'm going to try to steer the conversation into the education world a little bit, even though I'm no longer in that.
Yeah.
It's always a passion of mine to educate. I mean, life coaching is educating.
Well, part of you're an accumulation of your former selves, right?
Right, selves.
So yeah, right. So education is never going to go away. I was at my son's band concert the other night, and the band director said, kids who in fourth or fifth grade, they start playing music, and once you start learning music, it sticks with you for the rest of your life.
It does.
There are things like that, and I played the violin in fourth grade. I learned how to play the violin, and I was up there, and there are certain things that I learned from that. So that is something that we obviously. So you're always going to be an educator in the back of your mind.
Always. I mean, and honestly, now that you're a dad, you're educating. You're also a coach. You're educating.
Right.
You're helping your clients look for more mortgages. You're educating.
Right.
And I guess the point I'm going to try to make with Jeremy is that negotiations are the art of trying to communicate, trying to get goals peacefully resolved.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's huge.
Once he gets past the pot stirring part of himself. I'm being unfair. We're all pot
It's
stirrers.
easy, and it is easy to look at him as the pot stirring part if you don't really know him.
Yeah.
That he does have like a heart of gold. It's one of those things, and he's just looking out for people and for himself and for everyone. And
he is. I mean, he's advocating, and I know that he did the same things that I did. I went down to Harrisburg. We advocated for budget. We advocated. And it's hard to, here's the other thing, I probably shouldn't even say this out loud, but it's hard to advocate, negotiate, speak clearly and logically to people who aren't willing to listen.
Right.
And when you go to somebody who's not ready to hear what you have to say, it's just going to be, they could stare at you and nod and smile like many of those people will do. It's another thing when you're trying to solve problems together.
Yeah.
And you have people willingly coming to you, hey, I need a mortgage.
Right.
I have people willingly come to me saying, hey, I need a little shove in the right direction. What do you think? So it's one thing to go to your coach or to your loan, your loan officer with a thing you want to start to solve. It's another thing to have, to go to someone who just doesn't want to hear what we have to say.
Right.
So you almost have to know your audience in a way too.
You do, and you have to fine tune. One way doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes you have to find a way to relate to them, and find. But like you said, at the same time, remain your authentic self. And do that. I know in my profession and my world. And I know you too. It's like the more and more you're able to be authentic to yourself, the easier life comes.
And you have to find a common
easier.
goal. Like you are fortunate with your job that you're both trying to get your clients alone.
Not alone. Not
not alone, but together alone.
Not a creeper.
You want to get your clients alone.
Right.
Yeah, I know how you. Yeah, right.
We don't meet with people as much as we used to. That's why
Don't get started on that because
that's why we do
never stop talking
podcasts now.
we
And things
have to
like
do
that. People don't
everything.
want to listen.
No.
If we had a seminar. And like our first episode, I think we have like maybe, and we're humbling, right?
But
we
no,
had
what
60
I'm trying
people.
to say is no, look, okay, so like you want to get them. That's your common thread.
Yeah.
But like imagine talking to like what he has to do. I had to do a room full of people that just don't agree with you.
Right.
So you have to first, if you're smart, if you're intuitive, you got to look around the room and you got to say, why is this person here? Why is this person here? Why is this? What's their interest in being here? Mm-hmm. Once you kind of get into their heads a little bit in your own mind, thinking they're all here for a reason. They could be at home watching TV. Why are they here? All right, go with that. That's your golden kernel right there. You're just gonna say, absolutely, we're all here for something similar, and I don't care how diverse your background is or my background is, if you're male, female, what race you are, what religion you are.
Right.
When you look around the room, what's the goal? And as soon as you get there, you can negotiate. So.
I've learned that I work with a lot of people. I work with a lot of underdogs. Folks that maybe didn't think that they wanted to, but you reach that common goal with people, and I think that's the most success that you have with people, and it lasts in their memory bank when you. I was
an underdog for you. I remember. I remember trying. It didn't come out right, but I was literally trying to refinance my house, and I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And you found what was those harp? Was it a harp?
Harp. Yeah. Like it was one of those programs. Yeah, there were programs out there.
So I was an underdog.
Yeah, and you remember that, right? I mean, that's one of those things that, and that's what, it's try to find a fit for everyone, try to find something. And I remember
I did the thing you tell all your clients to do in real estate: never take out a loan or open a card or buy a motorcycle or a boat or whatever. Yeah. And what I did is I went to Kohl's, and it was around Christmas time, and I thought, I want that deal of opening the card and getting a certain amount off of everything I buy.
Right.
And you're looking through, how you do that final check where
a flag pops up and
you're
says,
like,
what's
Joy, what did you do? And I honestly, it never even occurred.
Legs. Yeah.
Never even, like the dog, the tail between. But we got it done, so
we did.
Congrats.
We did get it done.
We had a common goal.
And that was a good thing. And you know what? That's a good spot. We're going to welcome in Jeremy here.
Yay!
Thanks for joining us again on Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted, episode 3. See you soon. Okay. Folks, welcome back to Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted. We are here with our guest here on episode 3. We have Jeremyblin joining us in the vault today.
Thanks for having me,
Jeremy. Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming along. This is a new experience. We're trying to set up our set here, so we don't have 3 seats. So I'm over here as like coach, or whatever, coaching everyone along in the show. So you might see me moving around, but Jeremy and Julie are comfortable here. So we brought Jeremy on. We both know Jeremy, and that's why, especially as we start this show, we want to have some folks that that we know and we're familiar with to at least kind of get that conversation moving. We thought he'd be an interesting guest for us. I worked with Jeremy in a previous life years ago at the Erie Otters. We worked in marketing and sales and put in 90-hour weeks and made about $22 a year. And so that's why we've moved on. But both sports fans, and so we've known each other, stayed in touch over the years. And then Julie, tell us how you know Jeremy.
So Jeremy is my I was your predecessor. You're my I don't know what we'd call you, but
we're on the board together.
Yeah, we were on the board together, but Jeremy is now the school board president, which I was.
She left me and threw me to the wolves.
Left you to the wolves, and I figured and you're doing quite well. So you've been on the board for how long?
7 years, 8 years maybe.
Yeah. All right, that's
somewhere in there.
Decent. And then also you're on the Youth Leadership Institute of Erie.
Yes.
You're on that board.
Just got on that.
And you're also on the Iroquois Erie County Technical School rep. on that board as well, which I was also.
ATC.
Yep. So
a lot of exciting things happening there.
Right. And we have Jeremy on because he is a salesperson with what he does at Saturn Pet Care, right?
Yep.
And we are all negotiators, and he negotiates sales. I negotiate sales. Nick negotiates sales. And we're going to talk about the value of negotiations today. I feel like one of the things that helps us to keep our companies and our boards solid is negotiating the best deals for everybody in both sides. Communication is key, authenticity is key, and making sure everybody is getting something out of the deal is key. Finding goals and finding similarities is where we're going to start going with this conversation.
A good negotiation is when both parties win.
That's right. And both parties lose a little bit.
Exactly.
Right? You have to lose a little bit.
Right?
Give and take.
You want everyone to feel like they won and everyone to feel like they lost, right?
Yep.
That's one of the things we were talking a little bit before we got on the show here. We're talking about negotiations and things like that, and the way the country is kind of gone, just in general, right? A lot of people don't like to negotiate anymore, and I feel like it doesn't do anyone service by being that way. We're all in jobs that if we acted the way that people act on social media, none of us would have jobs, first of all, and we wouldn't get very far, so everyone has opinions, but it's one of those things where you got to find common ground, I think, and that's something that we were talking to you about, finding common ground, finding things that work for folks, and everyone feels like they get something accomplished.
Well, and the pandemic had some divisive qualities, and it wasn't just being scared about your health. It was about whose agenda can we push, and there were pros and cons between. There was race issues. There was party issues there still is really. Some of these things haven't healed themselves. There is civilian.
You mean parties like if we could have people go to birthday parties or not?
Yes, the party issues that I'm referring to is do we choose Barney because it's an older theme, or do we do Chuck E. Cheese? I mean, these are the parties we're talking about.
Birthday parades.
Right.
Remember birthday parades?
Yeah,
they were kind of cool, but also kind of sad.
Jackson,
that you had to do them.
But my son had to graduate with a happy graduation party that went right by him. We waved. That was all. Right. But I mean, and then there's civilians versus police officers. There's military versus, and there's just a lot that polarized our country. Yeah. And so negotiations now seems to be almost a little bit more of a difficult strategy. Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot of negotiating. Everyone's like, I'm right, you're wrong, and nobody wants to work together anymore. And that's what.
Right. And very rarely on the board, I would very rarely hear you mention your own agenda. Yes, of course, we all have agendas, but you have 2 daughters, and I rarely heard about your daughters and what you were concerned about with them. And it's not because you don't care, obviously, but you weren't just making it about you, or you're trying to heal and mend something.
When you get people, if you look just across even the Commonwealth, a lot of the boards that have issues, they come in with a specific agenda that they want to push, whether it's a coach that they want to get fired, or a superintendent they want to get fired, or a policy that they want to change. Like, I was fortunate enough to start when I think my oldest daughter was just in kindergarten.
Right, I remember.
And I was new to Iroquois, so I didn't know anybody in the community. I didn't know any of the teachers, the principals, nobody, and I just wanted to go and help kids.
So you weren't a vampire from
Lawrence
Park like I am.
Exactly.
Right.
I was
always lived in Lawrence Park for
just a little
400 years.
I'm a 456-year-old vampire, and if I leave Lawrence Park, I'll die.
If you look at the old photos of the school board, Julie was on the first school board when they broke ground for the high school, and and she's still here. She hopes that everyone from every generation, is old enough that they don't remember her from the previous generation, right?
Yes, I was part of the settlers. Yeah, no.
It's kind of like Nicolas Cage. There's photos of a guy that kind of looks like him, but it's like a vampire. It's like was it Paul Rudd? He never ages, or something like that. Right. Julie, I don't feel like you've aged. I've known you for over a decade, and you look about the same.
See, this is why we're friends, right there. Like he just told me I haven't aged. Well, there's reasons.
I've known Jeremy. I've known Jeremy for about 16 or 17 years, and he has aged. So.
I'm going bald, getting gray.
Nah, he's still. He's still the pot stirrer that I love.
Right? No,
Yeah.
he's still the same guy. No, yeah, you talk about the things, and I know we don't dive a lot into politics, but unfortunately, sometimes the current landscape of everything is politics. And an example, and I won't dive too far into it, and I'm not going to give sides or anything, but you look at what was it, Congress a couple weeks ago, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he helped, there was a bipartisan bill that passed. And there are folks that wanted his head on a plate because you actually passed a bipartisan bill. And it's like, holy crap, it's like...
Can we have like a bunch of partisans? Can we have like 5 partisans?
Right. Yeah, that's the problem. Bipartisan. Exactly.
That's the problem that we have. Like, why can't we have more of a divert? I'll probably get like hung and upside down.
Right.
I'll get a stake through my heart at this point. But with the youth leadership, let's switch over to that.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what you're give me one goal of that board that you're.
So that board, so it's a nonprofit. It's actually just right down the road on East Lake Road.
It's called Youth Leadership Institute of Erie. Very cool.
And helping basically inner city kids to try to guide them and offer them leadership that they're not getting at their homes or at school, and just trying to say, hey, there's a positive place for you to come to get educated and to show you like you can have a good successful life. You can be whatever you want to be. You can grow, and just giving them some guidance, because let's face it, a lot of kids don't have a good home structure nowadays, and that is really lagging and causing a lot of issues everywhere. I mean, my wife works in childcare, and I see kids, and she comes home sometimes and tells me what a 2 and a 3-year-old say, and it's just, I mean,
they're learning it somewhere.
They're learning it somewhere, and back in my day, you never, back in my day, 'cause I'm so
right,
old.
Yeah.
You never heard that before.
Watch it, buddy.
The kids, they respected teachers, they respected principals, and almost kind of were scared of a principal at the times, and now they're like,
you have to go to the principal, and it's like, oh no,
Now there's
and you're
no
being
fear
on
of
these
that,
boards. So. You're obviously you're concerned about your youth. As a father, I'm sure that that's when your eyes open to what you want for the future of kids.
Yeah,
really.
So that's why I got on a lot of these boards, just to help and give the kids a voice, because I think sometimes people get on these boards with their agendas,
right?
And they they lose the big picture, of
what's important for
kids. It's the kids,
right.
Take everything else out. If it wasn't for the kids, there wouldn't be teachers. There wouldn't be, schools.
What are your thoughts? Okay, I gotta do this. I know that this is, and please, if there's something that I cross a boundary with either one of you, please let me know, because I'm the pusher. I'm the one who pushes these things. But what about all the mandates that our teachers are supposed to adhere to with no funding, Jeremy? And that was the biggest advocacy that would draw me down to Harrisburg and talk about, to our officials. Look, every time you put out another mandate for these teachers to do, you don't provide us with the budget and the funding to do so. And as we do this, we're pulling away the responsibility from the family unit to do these things. Yep. We're the educators. We're not the medical people. We're not the psychological people. We're educators. What are your thoughts on that?
So if you go back probably 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, educators used to be that, like, if you taught reading, writing, arithmetic, that's what you did. You went to school, taught your math, you did everything. Kids went home, kids listened, paid attention. Now teachers are forced to be guidance counselor, mother or father, chaperone, leader, whatever, because these kids don't have a home life and there's so many mandates. I mean, I had an English teacher who I absolutely loved, and he used to throw erasers at kids.
Oh, we had one of those too.
But you know what?
I should name him, but he's still there.
Yeah,
So I don't
you do that. You do that nowadays, and you're gone. Like
you're gone.
You can't touch the teeth.
Was it like a chalk eraser?
Yes. Oh yeah, chalkboard eraser.
Did it hit you in a big cloud of smoke?
Yep. Go up, boom. Yeah.
So you're throwing erasers. Let alone, we're not even allowed to have chalk in schools anymore. So that's not only it's a hazard in many aspects.
Poor Jeremy's sitting in the corner with an asthmatic attack.
So Jeremy, do you have respiratory problems now as an adult?
From all the chalk
Can
that was thrown at me.
Can we start naming lawyers that could help you?
Right, yeah.
Like, seriously.
It's gonna be like that mesothelioma commercial.
Right, yeah.
That you
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
with
yeah,
chalk.
yeah. That's
Shout out to potential sponsors out there. If you want to sponsor our
Right,
show, we're
right.
glad to have
We
you.
have some favorite lawyers. We do.
So yeah, so the funding is just so out of whack. And teachers are just every year. What I always go back to teachers is what is your teachers union doing for you, and why aren't they standing up? Like, I don't know the stats, but I think they're probably the biggest union in the Commonwealth. Like, why aren't they going back and saying, you know what, Harrisburg? No, we got to draw a line somewhere, because you remember the scroll that used to be. I think it was like 1960. The mandates were this big, and now it's it's literally a scroll. It's huge.
We had a thumbs up.
We had a thumbs up.
Oh yeah, we have a thumbs
So,
up.
so
Give us a thumbs up on.
Look, I was a teacher.
shows
I was
here.
a teacher for 10 years. My parents were both teachers. I was brought up with a very meager upbringing, because back in the day, teachers didn't get paid a lot.
Right.
Now teachers are getting paid a little better. And I understand the need for unions in that case.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is when it becomes pro everything else and not the kid.
Right.
That's when I have the
Right.
problem. And I don't know, Nick. You
I
had
think-
a good educational career in your.
Yeah, I had a mix. I went a little bit. I did go to Erie City School for the first 5 years of school, so I had that experience, and then I went to parochial school through 8th grade, and then I went to private high school. And first of all, I know the private school teachers. I mean, they're paid, poverty wages.
Yes, I remember.
As a loan officer, I do a loan for one of them, and they're getting paid like $24,000 a year still. In the year of 2024, in the year of the Lord, whatever. But it's crazy, and it's nuts. But yeah, I got to experience a little bit on both sides there, the public and the private, and so my kids do go to public school, so now I'm experiencing that through the eyes of being a parent, and
It's so different, isn't it?
It is, and you view it differently, and you see that the teachers are inundated with guidelines and
Mandates,
rules and mandates and things that they have to meet. They do teach a lot to testing scores and things like that. That.
I hate testing scores.
Right, and it is one of those
get Jeremy
things.
on that one.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But how do you got to grade them on something? I'm like, well, why don't you let the principal be the principal and the superintendent be the superintendent, and let them oversee their staff? And if they see a staff that's doing well, just like if you have staff, like, okay, you're going to get rewarded. You're not so well, so you're going to be on an improvement plan, or
Right.
unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go because you're not doing a good job.
You can tell without scores
Yes.
and other things if they're doing their job.
Yes.
And one of the things, I don't know if Iroquois is like this or not, and it may be, or maybe you guys don't know this. I know I think it's through 2nd or 3rd grade in Mill Creek where my kids go, they don't even give them letter grades. Up until about 3rd
Yeah, I
grade.
think it's 3rd. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I found they're still, so it's not like the motivation is gone. My daughter is very competitive with herself and wants to do well. She sees the scores. It doesn't reflect it on a piece of paper at the end of the term, but they're still learning things.
Yeah, they are.
And I think what I've learned from that, at least, is that I think that you're getting something regardless of what that letter says at the end of the semester. So, that's something that I've taken as my son has gotten a little older and he's in the grades that have, grades now on the report cards. Even as a parent, like, I don't really care what that letter is at the end, as long as I know what he did and I know that he put in the effort and that, he's getting something out of it. And I think that's something that I've learned as a parent more so, than, when I was a kid, you'd get stressed out. You got a C on something. You'd be like, oh no, or whatever. I'd be nervous to tell my parents, and that's one of those things.
What I also want to reiterate too is that if we talked about education, we could go on probably for 3 or 4 episodes. So I mean,
Absolutely.
Things have changed. Some things for the good, I'm hoping, and some things need to be still improved. But just to bring it back to you, Jeremy, we were talking about negotiations and how important that is. With negotiations, you're dealing with your board. You're trying to keep each other, organized and negotiate their pros and cons so that your goals can be met that are the same. When it comes to what you do for your job, like Nick and I both negotiate. I like what you said when we were talking at one point earlier. You had said that negotiations is something that you have to be authentic about.
Yep.
That you have to
Right.
be like, people have to know where you're coming from, and you have to be open and honest about what you're trying to do. Number one, and number two is you're trying to find. I think this is I really do think that this is pro-human, pro-goodness, pro-good vibrational energy, whatever you want to say it, but you're promoting peaceful solutions. And we need more peaceful solutions in this day and age. You hit it on the head when you were talking about the pandemic and how it caused some rifts.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at when we negotiate like you do, like Nick and I both do, trying to find peaceful solutions.
You got to hear their side of the story and don't take it personal and look back and say, okay, well, this is what makes sense. This is what doesn't, but this is why it doesn't make sense. Like, would love, you want X, would love to be able to get that to you, but unfortunately can't. And here's the reasons why. And but since the pandemic, it just seems like so many people are like set in their ways. It's their way or the highway. They want to win everything. They don't want to bend or give or. I'm probably too honest to a fault at times, but that's just me, and I think it's actually helped in negotiations. Cause
I could give you some examples,
but it helps. It helps foster. They might not like it at the beginning because I'm so open and honest, but it helps the dialogue move forward.
You're in it for the right reasons. Nobody I know would be on 3 boards that try to help youth, right?
I think my wife volunteers me for all these boards, so I'm out of the house more.
Right,
probably.
so you're not the right person.
It could be, she knows that you're behaving. But the thing too is this. I want to ask you real quick. Because I know we're running a little low on time, but what about your upbringing and what your childhood and home life fostered this need for negotiating peace, being authentic? What could you credit it to?
So I grew up out in the country, so south of 90 as we call it. Probably I grew up in a very small community of Townville PA, 320 some residents at the time.
My grandmother was born in Townville.
Really?
Yeah.
Small little community.
Right.
Everybody just helped everybody out. I never had a house key growing up, so nobody locked their houses. Everybody helped one another if they could, and nobody tried to take advantage of each other. And I think that's kind of where it kind of fostered from. And then watching my grandpa have his construction business, and hearing how he treated his employees and how he treated people, and I think that just got passed down to.
You can be tough and business-minded, but also be kind,
compassionate and everything. Like there was many times he would go and do a job for somebody that he knew they had no money, and he would just do it pro bono and say, "Yeah, I'll send you a bill," and he would never send him a bill.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. So that stuck with me. And my dad had his own business, and he did things, and he didn't charge an arm and a leg. He didn't drive around in a brand new truck. I don't think my dad has ever had a brand new vehicle growing up. It was always, when he had a construction, it was an older truck or a beat up van, and you went from job to job. And now you see everyone driving around. You come to Erie, the big city, you see
the big city
construction people. They all have the big equipment, the big trucks, and all this money.
It's
like
right.
You can make a decent living, and they're making a decent living, but they out in the country, it seems like they just didn't overcharge. They probably shortchanged themselves, honestly, for how hard they work. They probably could have charged more, but they just didn't, and everybody just kind of helped each other out and talked and
made sure that you came to a resolution on your own. There we go.
Oh no, we got
3, 2. Are we there? There we are.
There we go.
Okay.
Just somebody calling about car extended warranty.
Yeah, right.
So, we both appreciate you being here and being available, and
Absolutely.
Please keep the good fight up for the kids out there and educating them and promoting them and all the things that you're doing and negotiating on their behalf.
I will try my
Absolutely.
best.
Yeah, and I think that we really enjoyed having you here with us today.
Absolutely.
You know, there are other stories. You know, both of us have known you for a long time, and if we catch ourselves not having any other guests, we'll have you back on. Right? So
I'm no legend like your previous guest.
Oh, Nick, I did not. You know what? We're learning as we go, and I want to say about Nick DeSantis. You know him because he's one of our coaches, but you know, I should have told about how good of a coach he was. Isn't he the winningest coach of all of Erie County? I believe.
I know he's at least like the
Might be.
fourth highest for girls, and then I don't know if there's total wins or something like that.
Might
But
be,
Yeah.
I think he's below that Larry Sinetta, like a Gerard.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
A million wins
Probably,
or
yeah.
something
Yeah,
like that. But
I mean,
but he's up there. He
Yeah.
is, and that is something that obviously, and that's something that we want to do is you know. We sat with Jeremy and got some stats and some things from him before.
Took some notes
before
this time, so we're
a little
tweaking
structure.
as we
So
go.
we're learning
Yeah.
as we go.
It's not just me and Nick rambling on,
Yeah.
which we can do for probably a week at least. So, but it's very awesome that you're here and you're sharing some of your expertise. You know, so thank you for doing that.
I think the London Knights are going to close it out today.
I think they're going to sweep them. Yeah, I think so. I think that's going to be over, and all the
gonna win the
Erieites are
OHL.
not going to be happy with
But
London.
is that your team?
I don't really have a horse in the race. I like Erie. I work there, so
Not to put you.
You,
in
you
Go
know,
Otters,
you
but
know,
That's the one question you won't
Saginaw will
answer.
probably win because they've had a month to
Right,
get healthy now,
exactly.
and that's how it works,
Yeah.
right?
Nice.
So, no,
Okay.
that's fun. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us with our
Thanks for
journey
having
with
me.
Jeremy here. We'll join you again with some follow up with Julie and myself, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Vault Vibes. That went quick.
I know, right?
Are you gonna probably have to cut some of that out? What was the thing with the thumbs up icon?
I don't know.
I've seen it. Did you see that?
I did. I saw.
Welcome back to Vault Vibes. We had a good interview with Jeremy there. I thought he offered a lot of good insights. He kind of we sort of steered the conversation how we thought we would with him. We talked a lot about negotiations, some of the different organizations that he works with, education, some other things there.
We kept it about heart too. You know, I mean, I
did.
feel like it didn't turn into more business talk. I feel like he had a lot to add about his upbringing, what he thinks is important for negotiation style, really. So
Yeah. And I think that's what's been easy for you and I with clients in the past is keeping it real. We talk about it,
Authentic.
and you say it's not business-like. Well, if you're going to say that, I don't think I'm ever business-like, because it's like you want to make that connection to a person, and you aren't rigid and
you can be goal-oriented with
so
heart.
Absolutely.
You can, and caring about people should be your number one goal.
That's what
Simple
keeps
as that.
people coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I thought that was really cool that he came and joined us. You know, we didn't even get to talk about some of the things. Like I said earlier in the show, there was a story about when he even bought his own real estate. We'll have to ask him about that again and tie in the story.
We will.
Thanks again, folks, for joining us on this.
Put it this way, when your realtor wants to buy your house because you got such a good deal,
Yeah.
that's actually really pretty good.
I know, and I wish, and I would share it, but without him here, I feel like so we definitely will share that story in the future here, and he said he'd be happy to come in again. So once again, folks, if you're out there and you watch us and you like what we're doing, and you want to come in and be a guest, we're happy to have you. We're happy to join you, have you join with us, or if you have suggestions of how you think. You think this show should go. I think
Absolutely.
we've done 3 different shows now, and we've had 3 slightly different setups. So I think we're trying to fine tune. I'm hoping that this one is probably the best that we've done yet, and maybe we'll roll with this. But
And I feel like the vibrational energy is definitely changing in here.
the vibes, Vault Vibes.
Vault Vibes.
All right.
Oh, here he goes.
Here he goes.
I want to start hearing that song.
I've been working on a song. I'll have to
Okay.
show you later.
All
Maybe.
right, let me just
So,
hear one snippet.
All right, when we're done.
Oh, come on. You got to do it for everybody.
No, I'm gonna roll it out for
Wow,
everyone when we
roll out. Big deal.
roll out. Do roll. Okay. Anyway.
Roll out the barrel.
Oh shit.
That's ridiculous.
All right. Thanks for joining us again on Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted. And this is Nick Cashone,
Julie Abel.
and we'll see you soon.